Debt. A simple word, yet one that has shaped empires, destroyed civilizations, and defined the lives of ordinary people for thousands of years. From ancient Mesopotamia to the modern credit card, debt has always been more than just money owed. It's a story of power, survival, and human behavior. Today, we will travel through time to uncover the history of debt culture, how it began, how it evolved, and how it came to dominate the modern world. Our story begins over 4,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Here, people didn't have banks, but they did have debt. Farmers borrowed grain from temples and merchants during bad harvests. If the crops failed, they couldn't repay, and soon they lost their land, their livestock, and sometimes even their freedom. In fact, one of the earliest known laws, the Code of Hammurabi, had strict rules about debt repayment and interest. It was so severe that many rulers had to forgive debts regularly to prevent social collapse. These debt jubilees, mass cancellations of debt, were not acts of kindness, but survival strategies. If too many citizens became slaves to debt, the entire economy would stop functioning. Debt, even in ancient times, was already a powerful tool of control. As human societies evolved, so did their moral understanding of debt. In Islam, interest, or riba, was strictly forbidden as it was seen as exploitation of the poor. Early Muslim societies developed alternative financial systems to encourage trade without trapping people in endless debt. In the Bible, debt was seen as both a moral and spiritual issue. The Old Testament repeatedly commands rulers to forgive debts every 7 years to reset society's balance. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece and Rome, debt became a symbol of inequality. Wealthy citizens lent money to the poor not to help them, but to gain power over them. When the poor couldn't repay, they lost everything, leading to riots, revolts, and even reforms. Debt once again was not just an economic transaction, it was a tool of domination. Fast forward to the Middle Ages. Europe was now ruled by kings, the church, and a growing class of merchants. The Catholic Church condemned charging interest, calling it usury, but merchants found creative ways to bypass this. They started using contracts, partnerships, and hidden fees. In the Italian Renaissance, families like the Medici built early banking systems, lending money to kings and popes. Debt was no longer a personal shame, it became a business. Kingdoms borrowed heavily to fund wars, exploration, and expansion. The rise of national debt was born, and along with it, a new world of finance. By the 1600s, European governments were issuing bonds to the public. For the first time, ordinary citizens could lend money to their rulers and profit from it. Debt had now transformed into an essential engine of modern capitalism. The Industrial Revolution changed everything. Factories, railroads, and machines required massive investments, and loans became the fuel of progress. Banks multiplied, and credit became accessible to ordinary people. By the late 19th century, the idea of buy now, pay later had entered everyday life. People began buying furniture, clothes, and even homes on credit. But with this came danger. When credit became easy, people spent more than they earned, and economies became fragile. The Great Depression of 1929 was partly a result of uncontrolled debt and speculation. Millions lost jobs, homes, and savings, reminding the world that debt, when misused, can destroy entire nations. In the 20th century, debt became normal, even celebrated. Credit cards appeared in the 1950s. By the 1980s, banks actively encouraged people to borrow for everything: homes, cars, education, even vacations. Governments too embraced debt, financing wars, welfare, and growth through borrowing. Today, the global debt has reached more than $300 trillion, far more than the world's total GDP. We live in a society where being in debt is no longer a failure, it's a lifestyle. But is that sustainable? From ancient farmers in Mesopotamia to modern citizens with credit cards, debt has followed humanity through every age. It has built empires and destroyed them. It has lifted millions out of poverty and trapped millions more. The history of debt culture is not just about money. It's about power, morality, and survival. And as we move deeper into a digital world filled with invisible transactions and AI-driven finance, one question remains. Are we controlling debt, or is debt controlling us?